Hello, everybody. Well, it's late Thursday night here, and I'm gonna do kind of a combo video here of guitars and new music that I picked up, and just blab as usual. So it'll probably take a while. So let's just start with some CDs and some LPs that I got lately. I had some, in the last video I made, I'd been getting Marillion albums, and a couple more came in the mail. So I got Brave, a nice edition of Brave. And I got Season's End. I played Brave, I haven't played Season's End. But I only played Brave once. I need to play it more and be paying attention. Kind of thing where I'm often getting ready in the morning, doing dishes, you know, doing a lot of things at the same time. It's not a great time to listen to music. Unfortunately, it's kind of the main time I have at this moment, listening to music. At some point, I'll get my car set up a bit better again for playing CDs. That's probably easiest time for me to concentrate on music. Also, at the thrift store, I found Midnight Oil's album Blue Sky Mining, and I got A Tribe Called Quest, the anthology, at the same thrift store for $2. I also got some vinyl that I'll show you in a minute at the thrift store. The other stuff I got through the mail. I got a couple of records by Scruffy the Cat, one on CD and one on LP. But Scruffy the Cat were a Boston band in the 80s, indie band. One of the things that was unusual about them is they had a banjo player. They're kind of like a not very serious Replacements, alternative, kind of jokey band, but I'd never had their records before. I had a 45 where they had one song on one side, and then I think the Young Fresh Fellows were on the other side. And I also got Thin Lizzy, Live and Dangerous, which, of course, the case got smashed by Amazon on the way to me, but what else is new? I'm glad to get this. This was sort of because when I went and saw The Darkness, I asked for what Thin Lizzy albums I should pick up if I'm starting to listen to Thin Lizzy, and they recommended that one. Then I got The Cars, Panorama. So I kind of have a weird relationship with The Cars, nothing personal. They were a band that I liked all right in the 1980s as a teenager, but I didn't like them a lot. So I sort of got my brother into them. He wound up liking them a whole lot. And I mean, I like their videos and I like their songs all right. I like certain songs, but they just, you know, I wasn't that into them. I kind of thought they were a little boring, though they're kind of interesting too. Good pop music and whatever. So I never really owned their albums. I've heard some of their albums, but I always liked Panorama because on the back, you know, they've all got weird guitars. So I would look at this at the hardware store and look at Rick Ocasek, I believe, has, maybe it's not Rick Ocasek. One of them has a Ovation Breadwinner or Ovation Deacon guitar, and I always thought that was really cool. I recently found out Ace Frehley had that guitar too at one point, but it's a really strange looking guitar. It's hard to see on this tiny picture, but I learned eventually that in recent years that Elliot Easton, besides I had heard he was kind of an excellent guitarist, you know, he's also a guitar collector. So he's got signature models of, I think, Fenders and Gibsons and also a Gretsch guitar, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Anyway, I think mainly on the Cars albums he tended to use SGs, though, and occasionally would use like a Gretsch in the studio or something. But I never knew that he was like interested in Gretches or anything like that until recently. So then I got some vinyl, which I mentioned when I was going to go see Bob Dylan, that I had just seen an album by Jimmie Rodgers called My Rough and Rowdy Ways. This is from about 1960, and it's, of course, a compilation of Rodgers's 78s, you know, from the 1930s, because, you know, he was the sing and break man, important pre-country artist, but pretty cool. I think I actually have another Jimmie Rodgers album that has a lot of these tracks, but just because of the Dylan connection, I thought that would be cool to pick up, and it was cheap. I think it was $5 or something. I like this little record consignment place I go to. I can always find cool stuff. I think you guys know that I have an electric violin, so I've always kind of been interested in Papa John Creech, and I found a good Papa John Creech solo album. I think this is his first one on Grunt Records, Jefferson Airplane's label. So that's pretty cool. It's even a gatefold. My friend Rob went backstage to a Jefferson Airplane Moody Blues show at the Puyallup Fair in the 1980s or early 90s, and he met Papa John Creech. He said he was really funny because he walked really slowly up to him, and they were all eating like backstage food, you know, and he said, "You should have a piece of pie." And then he kind of shuffled off. So he was back there enjoying the pecan pie or whatever they had. So I'm kind of trying to get some Hall & Oates albums lately, because I didn't like Hall & Oates in the 80s, and I'm starting to realize I was wrong. So I'm starting more like this before the stuff I didn't like so much, you know, Maneater and all that, which actually is probably fine. I just need to listen to it, you know, 30 years later now. But I found a copy of War Babies, so this is pretty cool. It looks like Todd Rundgren produced this album. Well, he's on lead guitar, background vocals, and yeah, produced, engineered, and supervised by Todd Rundgren. So interested in that album. And then here's an album I know very well and love. Nick Lowe's Nick the Knife. This is his third big solo album, and it was the first album I heard on the radio. Stick It Where the Sun Don't Shine. I heard actually a promo interview with him, and he was talking about how that sounds like a Creedence song, and it does. It sounds like Green River, sped up a little bit. But I like all these songs. And along with Nick Lowe, I got at the thrift store, where are they? 2 Dave Edmunds albums. One I used to have and one I've never had. So this one is DE7. So that's his 7th solo album. And he has his Gibson, I think that's a 335. Either that or a 330 or 339. I'm learning my Gibson hollow bodies. Don't have it quite down yet. But there he is. And a couple years later, here he is with a Telecaster on his album Riff Raff. This is one that's produced by Jeff Lynne. Yeah, This is one I don't know at all. I don't remember it coming out. Of course, he has a Telecaster on the back, too. So, so when I saw the Cars live with my little brother on the Heartbreak City tour, but then also a while ago when there was the new Cars, which was Elliot Easton, Greg Hawkes, Todd Rundgren on lead vocals, and I think a couple of the Romantics as the rest of the new version of the Cars. And they did Cars songs and they did some new songs as well. But I figured, you know, this is kind of cool. I'd pick up this Romantics album. The one I know is the one that was all over MTV in about 1983 or 84 that had Walking in Your Sleep, and then they'd play What I Like About You a whole lot too. But I'd never seen this album, so, you know, early 80s power pop, throwback pop with Rickenbackers. And also going along the stiff and pub rock line of things, here's Graham Parker, Squeezing Out Sparks. I've had a couple of his albums in the past, and this is supposed to be a really good one. Never had this one. I had, I think, Heat Treatment and, what's the other one that's around that era? Howling Wind. Yeah, I think I had both of those on cassette, which means I probably shoplifted them in like 1981. Anyway, speaking of guitars and Gretches, here's Chet Atkins, Teensville, with lots of big Gretches that he's promoting, kicking around in the background at the Teen Hop or something. And here's more teenagers dancing along on the side. But Chet Atkins, Teensville. Mainly, I just got that for all the Gretchy goodness. Speaking of Gretchy goodness, here's the Scruffy the Cat album with a big old out-of-focus Gretsch on the front. And a very in-focus Gretsch with the band on the back. So, yeah. And like I was saying, they also have a banjo player. But, yeah. See? Cool indie band from Boston, mid-80s. Then I got this Duane Eddy album through the mail. This was one of those albums where he is being produced by Jeff Lynne and, let's see, Ry Cooder produces a track, a couple tracks. Paul McCartney produces Rockestra theme on this, so it's all-star Duane Eddy album. And again, we've got some Gretchy goodness going on there. So that's cool. Got that one. And here's this Pirates album that I've wanted to get, Out of Our Skulls. Of course, it's a promo copy. But, yeah, isn't that cool? So, like I was saying, Johnny Kidd and the Pirates, this is more from the mid-70s, late 70s, when the Pirates were opening for the Stranglers and other punk bands in England. And Mick Green is the guitarist here, who was so influential on Dr. Feelgood and a lot of other people. And then I continued getting my surf record compilations through the mail. So this is Surfin' Roots. Again, something that was from the later 70s. Lots of good instrumental tracks on here. Probably an Annette Pineapple Princess or something as well, as that tends to happen on these surf things. Oh, and speaking of other guitars I'm kind of thinking of. So, I had a Humble Pie double CD best of called, I think, Hot and Nasty. And I can't really remember who, but one of my friends indicated that they didn't have that and they'd like that. So I was me, the giving person, and I gave it to him. And of course, that just means that I'm planning on getting more humble pie later. So I finally, you know, a couple of years later now, got humble pie performance live at the Fillmore. Pretty thrilled to find that at the thrift store or the on consignment. And it's gatefold with all the pictures. So Steve Marriott has an Epiphone guitar that I'm interested in, and I may wind up with at some point because they're really cheap, and I think they're just totally... So I'm not very technical, and I don't think I can edit a video together, but I might be trying later. I just bumped my phone and cut off the video mid-sentence. So I'm going to call this part 2, or I'm going to figure out how to edit it together. One or the other. So if this is part 2, welcome to part 2. I just have been talking about CDs and records that I picked up, and I kind of mentioned I also got a guitar. I hadn't showed the guitar yet. I was almost to the end of showing the records. I've got a copy of Humble Pie's live at the Fillmore here, and I was mentioning that Steve Marriott played an Epiphone coronet on it, which is an interesting guitar. I think we can see maybe a picture or two here where it's kind of curved like this, and it's down here. So the coronet is from the 1958, and they made them through the 60s. There were a couple others in a similar series. It's the basic one. There's one called the Wilshire and one called the Crestwood that have, you know, more pickups, and, you know, the Wilshire has humbuckers, like Firebird type humbuckers on it. But they came out before the Gibson SG, and in lots of ways they're kind of like a Gibson SG prototype. But they had P90 type pickups, which I'm interested in. It's a single coil pickup that's kind of wound heavier, so there's lots of players who really like that type of sound. So usually people like to have several types of pickups to alternate between to, you know, use in different situations. So I'm kind of interested in getting a P90 guitar, and I'm really looking at the Epiphone coronet because it's a cheaper one. I think it's totally cool. There's a good reissue out right now that's really affordable and supposed to be pretty high quality once it's all set up. It's the one I go to a guitar center and play all the time, because none of the other guitars really are that interesting to me, except that it's a Crestwood that's there, but I want the coronet. So it's same body shape, just a few things are a little different, and it's just so cool. So I see that in my future. But right now, I'm going to show you what I did get. So I went to a bass store, and it turned out to be half bass store, half guitar store. But I was going there to look at basses, and I did try out a bunch of basses, learn some things. Some I like a little more in person than I did before, some I don't. But it was fun, and I talked to the guys there. And then I, you know, couldn't just leave the store. I'm going to go look at all the guitars, and played a bunch of guitars and picked them up. And they have some cool vintage guitars there too. So, you know, I'm looking at things way beyond my budget and picking them up and playing them, but they're pretty cool about me doing that because, you know, I'm going to probably buy something. So I found something within my budget. I was all keen on getting it, put a deposit down on it because I had gotten a bonus from work, because we get 2 bonuses a year, one right before Christmas and one in June, and I got my bonus. It wasn't very big, but it was enough for a deposit. And I put a deposit on a Reverend Flat Rock, which was an orange guitar, a Reverend that had, they called them Revtron pickups, which was Reverend's version of a Gretsch Filtertron pickup. And Reverends are supposed to be good guitars. They're a newer company, been around like about 25 years now. But I was getting like a fake Gretsch. That was kind of the thing. And I was all keen to get it. I went ahead and bought a Reverend case through the mail because the guitar didn't have a case. So let's see, can you see my Reverend logo teardrop shaped case here? The thing that's good about it is another guitar I had without a case, my 12-string, the one that looks like a Rickenbacker, fits in it perfectly. So I'm using it for that, because then I changed my mind. 2 days before I was going to buy the Reverend, I went online to their webpage and saw they got a Gretsch that was $100 cheaper than the Reverend I'm getting, and it had been modified in a lot of ways that interested me. So I went ahead and got this Gretsch instead, had them ship the deposit over. They were happy to do that. So for $600, I got an Elliott Easton Electromatic model Gretsch Duo Jet. And can you see it here? It's green and gold. It's got a Bigsby. So there's the Bigsby. Yeah, there's the guitar again. These are TV Jones pickups. They're a higher quality pickup than what came with this guitar. The owner altered them, added better pickups. He also put on a better pickguard that was sparkly. The Elliott Easton model has an extra switch here for a tone control. Of course, it has its regular volume and tone knobs. What's really different about this guitar is it's a longer scale. Elliott Easton wanted a 25.9 scale. I think that's what it is. It's got these thumb inlays for the fret markers. I really like that. Other Gretsches do that too, but not all Gretsches have that. Here you can see Elliott Easton model, Gretsch Electromatic. So this is from 2005, and it comes in this great case. Nice Gretsch case. And the thing about it, yeah, it looks pretty good on the back. It's got a couple dents, but for that old of a guitar that got played, I think it's pretty excellent. So lots of Duo Jets are chambered, which means they're lighter than a Les Paul. But Elliott Easton wanted his to be a really solid guitar because Gretsches tend to get damaged on stage if they're old original ones, and they're also really inconsistent, the older ones, as far as, you know, whether you've got a good guitar or not. So this was supposed to be kind of a workhorse model guitar, so it's heavy. It's heavier than I would like in a guitar, but because I don't really like the whole heavy Les Paul thing. But I love the Duo Jet. I like it better than the Les Paul. And it's got a Bigsby, which for me is pretty cool. So I can do all the twangy Chet Atkins, Dwayne Eddy type stuff on this, if I ever learn to play any good. So that's my lineup. I know I've messed up this video a couple times. We'll see if I can edit it together or not. Here's my Gretsch book. I don't think I showed you that. But 50 years of Gretsch electrics. Half a century of White Falcons, Gents, Jets, and other great guitars. So there's Chet Atkins, of course. Lots of cool, of course, the orange ones. Chet G brand on a hollow body. So see they used to put this brand and put like a country kind of look to it, where it had a signpost and, you know, a steer head and things like that. He kind of didn't like all the country stuff. So it was removed from the later models. This one has a horseshoe. And again, that signpost that says Chet Atkins on it. And there's the early Duojets. George Harrison's 57 Duojet. So yeah, looks pretty close to mine, except that was a chambered guitar. And this is not a chambered guitar. This is heavy. This is, I'd say it's about almost 9 pounds, which doesn't sound like much until you pick it up. Okay, I think that's good. And there's Bo Diddley, his Firebird Gretsch. Have a good night. Bye.